Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us today on JamPlay.com. We are in section 6 of this course. We're talking about pentatonic scales, which is kind of what I was using here. It's kind of the to-go scale when a lot of people play. I was going to say when I play, but I'm sure most players are kind of like that because it's a comfortable scale to get under your fingers, and there's so many things that we can do with that scale. And that's kind of what this course is about. And today we're going to explore maybe some more creative ways to using that scale, that pentatonic scale. If you're just joining us, welcome. Don't feel like you have to watch the other videos before enjoying this one. That's totally fine. Just grab your guitar. This is kind of an interactive session. We've got an hour together, and even if you didn't explore the different concepts that we've talked about previously, I think you can still spend time on your instrument, and even if that's an hour of practice with your guitar in your hand, that's always good. It's always a good thing, and plus it's a fun group that we have here, so I'm glad you're part of this. And also, if you do want to re-watch the previous sessions, you can. They're recorded. They're here on the website. It's available for JamPlay members, and you can also download all the extra stuff that comes with the sessions, such as the backing tracks, the tabs, the charts, if there are charts. You can download all that, and you can rewatch them and study all that material as many times as you want. And as far as the interactive part of the class, it's interactive because you can ask questions, and I will take these questions at the end of the session. Try to keep them relevant to the pentatonic subject, but if you have a burning question that you just can't wait to have answered, that has to do with music and guitar, feel free to post it too, and I might answer it. And yeah, today we're going to talk about sequences. So a sequence has an element of logic in it in order to be a sequence. It's something that you can study the first few notes, and then you should be able to continue that sequence on your own. There's a pattern that is repeated in those sequences. And you can recognize those sequences if you pay attention. Those sequences sound, well, like I said, logical. There's a pattern to them. They're maybe not as melodic as some other musical ideas, but they really have their place. And before we start learning some of the sequences here and learning and coming up with new sequences on the spot, I'm going to show you how to do that. I want to tell you a little bit about my approach. And I think it's a healthy approach, I hope, as far as when to use these sequences and when not to use them. I think there really needs to be a balance. If you only use sequences, then your solos and your playing is going to be predictable, and it's going to focus mostly on the technical side, which is good. It has its use. But if you're only doing sequences, then your music is going to tend to sound more technical, and it's going to speak mostly to those who can appreciate that technique. And those people are most likely going to be guitar players. Whereas if you are not using any sequences at all, and you're only going with using this as your voice and trying to find melodic ideas, that's going to speak to maybe more people, but the guitar player in us is maybe going to crave something a little extra if you don't use sequences. So there's a balance, I think, that you can achieve to use some melodic material where it's really searched from inside, from within, and some more guitar-like ideas like sequences, which is the object of today's course. And if you blend both together, I think you'll have the best of both worlds, and you'll be able to and a lot of people are going to be able to relate to your music, not just guitar players, not just what's the opposite, non-guitar players. You're going to speak to a lot of people if you can incorporate these two. Another reason why I think it's important to blend both things together, the melodic focused playing and the sequence, is for your own mental preservation. So I'm going to explain what I mean. When you're playing, there's always something involved, And I kind of discovered that when you're playing, it's kind of a give and take between the physical aspect that's involved in playing, like the muscles of your hand, the tendons, all those things, and the mental aspect of playing. And usually both don't blend very well. Usually it's one or the other that's taking over. So I'm going to use I've got a looper here. It's a great tool to teach. I'm going to create a very simple loop so that we have something that we can play over. I'm going to play something very simple in A. So that's going to go on forever. And because it's an A, I can play A minor pentatonic. So if I use mostly my muscles and my tendons, like the physical aspect, my playing is probably going to sound like this. And I'm not warmed up, so it's not going to sound great, but it might sound something like this. That kind of thing. This is very involved physically, not mentally. Now, if I have the mental take over, it might sound more like this. You kind of almost hear the difference, right? Physical. It's faster and it's more predictable. Like in this idea, I was descending a lot of notes. So predictable, maybe faster playing, maybe more regular rhythmically. That's the physical aspect. And if the mental takes over, it's maybe flowing a little better. It's slower, more repetitive musical statements that kind of build on each other. More silences in between. It's more of a conversation. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the difference between the mental concentration playing, which is more melodic, more dialogue-like, building something, building a story. So all the elements of speech are found in there, such as silence in between the different words. And repetition too. So that's all the mental and the physical aspect. When you're phrasing, I'll call it phrasing mentally. It's not really the proper term, but you know what I mean. When you're more melodic, more involved mentally than physically, that's very draining. Your concentration, it's almost like you have, I kind of picture a cup that is full of concentration juice, and as you're playing like that, the cup is running out, and at some point or another, depending on how many years you've been playing, that cup is going to run really fast. So if we go back to our loop, I'm starting with the full cup. Very involved on the concentration level. And that the cup is filling out. And when it's completely out, that's where mistakes happen. That's what happens when the cup is out. So what do you do when that happens? That's when you switch your process of playing. That's when you rely on licks, exercises, things that can let your concentration regenerate, that cup refill, and your physical aspect is taking over. This is not demanding concentration-wise. It is physically. And it's the same thing. Now I'm using my second cup, the physical playing kind of cup that kind of pours out as I'm doing this. And eventually when the cup is out, I'm kind of messing up. So that's kind of the picture that I want to give you. There are two cups. A concentration cup, very actively involved from the brain and from the concentration level, and a physical cup. And if you have both, if you run out of your concentration cup, the melodic playing, you need time to refill it. So don't let your brain cup, concentration cup, use anything else. Just let it rest, let it flip over so that it refills. But as you're doing that, you can't not play anything. That's where the physical cup is taking over, starting to spill that physical cup as the concentration cup is filling up. And it's kind of back and forth like that when you're playing. So now if you're only relying on the physical aspect and you have 5 minutes of playing over something like this, the cup is running out. If you're only relying on that, then at some point the cup's empty, you're going to stop playing or just kind of messing up, and it's going to be horrible as the cup refills, and then you play it well again. If you only use the concentration cup, spilling out, and then nothing else, and you've got to wait until it refills. That problem is kind of automatically solved if you're playing with a band and let's say the bass player is taking over a section. Bass and drums are taking over. That's where you can kind of recuperate if you only have one type of cup to use when you're playing. If you don't really have the technical side, then that's good if you're in a band setting where everyone is involved in the creation of music. But if you're playing in a context of a backing track or a longer extended solo where you have to kind of like shine, and if you don't have two cups, you're going to run out at some point or another. So today we're going to talk about this cup, the physical cup. So I hope you understand that we're not learning sequences and physical licks and physical exercises because that's the one and only tool that we need. You need to have both. But right now we're focusing on that. That's what sequences are. And those are meant to be approached as exercises. They're very repetitive, so that's very demanding. We need to have the endurance and the muscles to do that. But once we work on them, then it's kind of automatic and we don't really have to think about it. If we did have to think about it, that would mean that the concentration part is still active in the process. As the physical playing is being poured out, if we're still involved concentration-wise, then that defeats the whole purpose of having these two cups back and forth. I hope that makes sense. And that's what we're doing today, sequences. One more thing, in order for a sequence to work, you need to really have your positions down. You need to know your positions without having to think about it. Again, we're trying to leave out all the thinking part of this. So, quick reminder of these positions. These positions are just slices of the fretboard. So if we have a minor pentatonic scale in the key of A, for example, and we wrote down that scale all over the fretboard, we'd have a lot of dots. And instead of memorizing all that scale, we split our fretboard into virtual sections, virtual slices. And those slices are going to help us cover the full fretboard. And these slices are vertical slices. Vertical meaning that they're reachable. They're in a smaller area of the fretboard. They cover all strings. That's why they're vertical. As opposed to horizontal, which covers a very wide, extended range of frets. Here we're just using vertical frets or vertical positions. And there are 5 of them if we're in a minor pentatonic scale. I'm going to go through them really quick. So with your guitar, we're going to try that together over this loop. I'm going to ascend and descend each position one after the other. We'll start with position 1, which starts with the first note of our minor pentatonic scale. That's on the low E string, the thick string, 5th fret. I'm going to ascend that and descend that. And I'll do the same with the second position and so forth. I'm going to go through the full fretboard. If this is new to you, just listen and hear how that sounds. But don't worry too much if you don't know those positions, because you can go back in the previous 5 sessions, and those are the sessions we really dissected those positions and learned them. I'm going to tune up really quick. I think I'm a little out of tune, and then we'll get started on that groove. And that groove is, if you listen to the tempo, da 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 da. We'll take it slow. We'll play 2 notes per beat. So instead of this one, da 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 da, 1 da da da, 1 and 2, something like that. I'll finish my tuning real quick. So we'll start with position 1. Remember, there are 2 notes per position. I'm sorry, 2 notes per string. Okay, here we go. Position 1, descent. Position 2. Position 3. Try to be consistent in the rhythm. Don't speed up, don't slow down. And I'm playing alternate picking. Down, up, down, up, down, up. This should be second nature. Don't have to think about it. And position 5. Okay, so all those positions should be really memorized. And now we're going to take a look at position 1. So there should be a tab that's going to appear on the screen. And you can download these tabs too in the supplemental content if you want. Yeah, that's it. Sorry. Yeah, great. So here it is. Here's the first one. And the first thing we're going to do is to look at the top notes, the rhythm section. That's going to give us an idea of the consistency of those sequences. So we're looking at lick 1, ascending. The consistency here rhythmically is 4 notes per beat. So if we go back to our loop, if that's our tempo, we'll have 4 notes per beat. Like that. That's for the rhythm. Now we're going to attach notes. So we're going to start taking a look at what's going on, and hopefully we'll find some kind of logic and repetition and sequence in there. All right, let's just start learning. The first note is on the low E string 5th fret. That gives us an indication that we're on the 1st position, most likely. If we look at the second note, which is 8th fret, those 2 notes, 5, 8, are in that 1st position. So yes, it looks like that full pattern, that full sequence, that full idea, which takes place across 2 bars, is built on that 1st position of A minor pentatonic. So that's 5/8, 5/7, 5/7, 5/7, 5/8, and 5/8. If we look at the notes, we have 3 ascending notes, 1, 2, 3, and then we go back to that third note, the second note we played, which is the 8th fret, and we're ascending 3 notes again. And then we're ascending 3 notes from the 3rd note. So that's, and then the 4th. So that's kind of the sequence. If I play it slowly, you hear that. I'm playing 3 notes, 1, 2, 3. And then I'm playing 3 notes again, this time for the second note of the scale, 1, 2, 3. 3 notes again from the 3rd note of the scale, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's the sequence for the notes. So if we put both together, the top line, which is the rhythm, that's 4 notes per beat, and the actual sequence of notes, it's in 3s. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And that's the danger, that's the difficulty, because we're playing a series of 3 notes harmonically, but 4 notes rhythmically. And so if I only think in terms of rhythm, I'm actually going to record a click. This is our click. 3 notes. If I only kept it 3 notes, it would be easier to play. But the rhythm is 4 notes per beat, which is so that's the sequence. I'll play it again slower. I'm going to slow it down in half. I think I can do that with this, actually. Actually, you know, instead of doing that, that's kind of confusing. Uh-oh. That's not what I wanted. All right, let's not worry about that for now. I'm just imagine that this is your click. 4 notes per beat. Da, 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 da. And instead of doing that, I'm going to slow it down in half. So 1 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Okay, let's try it one more time together at that tempo. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Something like that. In full speed. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. In context, everything is slowed down. No. I'm going to re-record that loop. Okay. Not what I wanted. All right. I'm going to use the reset trick. Unplug and plug back in. We'll see. Just thinking a little bit. And then we'll try that together. All right. So here's our sequence. I'm going to make a test first. I'm glad I did. Bear with me, guys. All right, well. Got it. Okay, we're good. Whew. All right, here's our loop. Okay, we're good. So that's our tempo. 4 notes per beat. With the sequence. So you really hear the logic behind that sequence, right? It's a repetitive thing. And we can apply that logic to any other position as long as the position we're applying this to has the same elements. In other words, this sequence that we learned was over a position that had 2 notes per string across all 6 strings, so I can apply that to any other position of the minor pentatonic scale. I could do that to the second. It would sound just like the same way. So I'm going to be in position 2. My concentration is not really involved. It's all under the fingers, it's a sequence, it's automatic playing. I can descend that. So if I slow it down by half, not with the looper anymore, but I'll do it on my own. So instead of 4 notes per beat, I have 2 notes per beat. Descending the first position. Full speed. So it's not involved mentally at all. It's all physical playing, automatic. Now, if I try to improvise using that concept of the cup, I'm gonna start with my left-hand cup, which is the focused, melodic, where I'm almost singing everything I'm playing before I play it. That's involved emotionally, on the concentration level, not really physically. It's simpler. And as I'm doing that, I'm pouring out the cup. And once I feel that I'm out of ideas, that's where this cup's taking over the physical, and I'm going to use that sequence that we just played. And as I'm doing that, my concentration is refilling because I flush it all out, and then I'll take over again. So let's see if you can hear which cup is being used. I'll start with this one. Concentration, I'm going to sing everything I play before I play it. That's the other cup. Now I feel that the other one's refilled. That's the other cup. So this was very like scholar example, like textbook example. When you play, you don't want to have exactly that. You want to have a little bit of this cup, a little bit of the technical, a little bit of that, inject a little bit of that. It's blended a little more than that, and it might sound something like this. Something like that. So it's a little more subtle when you're blending both together. But that's the idea. Okay, so we actually studied lick number 1 and 2. We did the ascending version of that. Those are the first 2 bars. And then the second bar is descending. Now let's study actually lick number... Yeah, the numbers seem a little messed up, sorry. We're going to study the 3rd line under there. So I guess lick number 3. And this is an ascending idea. The rhythm pattern is 8th notes. That's 2 notes per beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and throughout. And looks like we are using the first position of the minor pentatonic scale. So 5/8, 5/7, 5/7, 5/7, 5/8, 5/8 for an A minor pentatonic. We're ascending 4 notes, but we're skipping a string. So we'll ascend the first 2 notes of the low E string, skip the 5th string to the 4th, and ascend 2 notes. And that's it. That's the lick, basically. That's the logic of the lick. Once we extracted that logic, where we play 4 notes, but we skip a string in between, we'll do the same thing, but from the string we skipped. Same thing from the string we skipped. And from the string we skipped. And if we do it right, we'll have 8 ideas. One idea starts on the low E string, or 4 ideas, I should say. One on the 5th string, one on the 4th, and one on the 3rd. So that's the whole idea. If I play that with 8th note on our loop that we had here, it seems that I'm erasing that loop each time by mistake. So I'll try not to. I'll record it one more time and then that should work. Okay, each time the loop changes a little bit, but same idea. So that's our tempo. 8th notes, and here's the lick. That's the idea. Try it one more time. 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's try descending. So we're descending 4 notes and skipping a string. Now let's try ascending and descending without stopping. Descending. All right. One more time. And descending, which is the top line on your screen. Once you have that on your fingers, you really don't have to think about it, and you can apply it to any other position. Position 2. And that's the idea. Now let's try to ascend that idea. And then we'll switch to 4 notes per beat. And descend the first idea that we played. So ascending the string skip. Descending. There you go. Now let's try the opposite, and that should be the middle line on your screen and the bottom line. So I'm going to descend the first idea, and then ascend the second, which is string skip. So we'll wait until the loop comes back around. Got it one more time. Here it is. That's involved, but concentration level is very low. Or should be very low if you spend time learning these things. Developing a sense of automatic playing. And then you can be creative. Eventually your fingers are going to take over the more sequences you learn, and the more automatic it's going to be. I've got one more for you, which is on sheet number 2, I think. Yep, there we go. And there's the ascending version and the descending version. And this is a little more complex to figure out the logic, but I think it's really cool because it sounds a little different from the regular scale type of work. If I play the sequence, this is how it'll sound like. This is how it would sound. This is what it would sound like, right? It sounds a little different, almost like chords. So let's learn that. It's a really cool sequence, I think. The rhythm is eighth notes, so 1 and 2 and 3, something like that. And before we study the logic behind this sequence, I want to remind you, or just tell you, about the idea that on a scale, any given scale, there are outside notes and inside notes. When I say outside notes, I'm not talking about the outside as in outside of the scale, like the fusiony type of, not that kind of outside. I'm talking about the extremities of this scale. If you look at position 1, 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 8. What I mean by outside notes are kind of like the wall notes, the most, the furthest out that you have these notes, like the walls of a castle. And in between, you have other things, but those are the protective notes. The further left you can go in an A minor pentatonic, first position, would be the 5th fret. That's the far left note. And then you've got 8, that's the far right from my perspective. And because we only have 2 notes per string, we'll have a far left and a far right. Or left notes or right notes. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. If we were talking about the Dorian mode, well, we still have a far left note on the 5th fret. We still have a far right on the 8th fret, but we also have a middle note, 7. That's why I say far left, far right. So any note in a pentatonic scale, if we were talking about those vertical position, can be either left or right from the player's perspective when you're looking at your guitar. So if we go back to the sequence now, we'll see that, so we're in the second line, we're doing the ascending version. The logic of the sequence works itself every 4 notes. So every 4 notes, we're repeating that idea. So if we look at the first 4 notes, we have 5, 5, 5, 7. Translated into left, right, that'll be left, 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 right. You see that? Left on the low E string, left on the 5th, left on the 4th, and right on the 5th string. So we have left, 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 right. And we're ascending 3 consecutive strings with the left notes, left, left, left. And we're going back to the middle string, right. And then we'll do the same for the 5th string. So that's left, 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 right. Left, 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 right. Left, 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 right. And that's the sequence. If I play this over this, you hear the repetitive nature of this. So I played the first bar there. Sorry, the first 2 bars. Descending, we're going to reverse the full thing. So instead of having left, 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 right, we're going to have right, 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 left. Right, 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 left. Right, 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 left. Right, 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 left. And we're starting from the high E string all the way down. So descending, it sounds like this. One more time. If I ascend and descend, it sounds different than that kind of word. Same scale. But a little different with the sequence. That's the idea. And using the left, right, I think is a great way to come up with patterns and combos and develop new types of sequences, which is what I'd like you to explore this week. Try to come up with your own sequences. Of course, study the ones that are given here. You can download the tabs, you can print them, you can memorize them. As you're memorizing them, don't approach this like you would memorize a solo or a song or a riff. I want you to be very analytical about those ideas, those sequences, and really understand the logic behind that sequence. Because if you can understand it, you can reapply it. Let's try to make up a sequence on our own. We'll make it short. We'll make a sequence that repeats every 4 notes, and we'll start with the placement of the note. Is it a left side or a right note? We'll do left, left, right, right. For example, left, left, right, right. And as far as the strings, we're going to do string 6 for left. We're going to skip a string to 4 for left. And then 4 again for right, and 6 again for right. So the strings are 6, skip a string, 4, 4 again, and 6. The placement of the notes are left, left, right, right. And you've got to follow, of course, the scale you're in. In this case, first position of the minor pentatonic scale. So you've got left, left, right, right. And then we'll do the same for the 5th string. Left, left, right, right. Left, left, right, right, and so forth. So try this on the sequence. I'll take it slow because I haven't memorized it yet, but the logic is left, 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 right, right. Left, left, right, right. String 6, 4, 4, 6. And then 5, 3, 3, 5, and so forth. Let's try that. 1 note per beat, just quarter notes for now. Here we go. It sounds good. The notes sound good, I think. Try that one more time, and then we'll add some life to it. Once we played that, let's say 10 minutes, you can start playing a little bit with different rhythm motifs. Maybe instead of very static like this, like we did, we can develop something with 4 notes, but a little different. Those are the 4 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's try that. It's a little more lively. It adds something a little different. We could have done something like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. like that. And that's how you can take a sequence, start with something simple. You choose how many notes. Start with 4, 3, maybe 6. 5 would be a little tricky, but why not? And then decide left, right, left, right. Just place those things. You can even do a random thing as long as that random sequence repeats itself. Then it's not random anymore. There's a sense of repetition. And then play with the rhythm a little bit and see what happens. And there's a backing track that's included. I'll play it for you just a little bit. This is just, it's not the backing track that will work perfectly for this. It will, but it's not the only one. There's a lot of tracks that will work for this. We're considering that we're in A minor pentatonic, so this is A track. So A Dorian track. Dorian is another minor mode, but you can use minor pentatonic. And if I play this, it's just, you get more context. That's your beat. Play that last sequence. That's what I'll have. The first sequence we did, something like that. The second was skip the string. And so forth. There's a lot of tracks that you can explore to try these different sequences, and I recommend that you do. If you just play with one type of track, one type of tempo, one type of a groove, then your improvs are not going to translate well in other musical styles. And there's hundreds of tracks on JamPlay for the members, so you should definitely check those out. They're organized by key also, so it makes it easy. Let's see how much time we have left. Okay. I'm going to open it up to questions if we have questions.
This one was up on the forum, so it's a little bit longer than normal, but read through this one from Gabrielle. I noticed that some artists put in a small, simple chord, 2, 3, 4 strings, when improvising. Are these mini chords just a couple of random notes taken from the pentatonic scale, or are they some sort of simplified standard chords?
They can be both, but they're not limited to pentatonic scales necessarily. A pentatonic scale is, I think in the first session we might have talked about that. Any scale is like an alphabet. There's a certain number of notes, and from that alphabet you make words. In music, if I simplify things, there are two types of alphabets. There are rich alphabets and more simple alphabets. A pentatonic scale is a more simple alphabet because it has 5 notes. That doesn't mean that you can't express yourself really effectively with just those 5 notes. But in contrast to the 7-note scale, it's a little more simple. There are less notes. So when you're playing a solo, you're not limited to playing single notes. You can also add some chords. You're not limited to just single notes. So that's what's happening there. So that answers the question, are those mini chords? Yeah, as long as you have 2 or more notes, they're chords. They're smaller chords, but that's okay. But they're not limited to the pentatonic scale because they could be part of a fuller 7-note scale. And my approach to chords is a little different today. I used to think that I needed to know exactly how to build every single chord out there. And kind of know how, I know how it works, but I don't think in terms of, on this track, I can use B flat minor 7, sharp 5. I don't think like that. Instead, I think of my full scale. In this case here, the loop that I built was a Dorian thing. I visualize my Dorian position, a Dorian position, anyone, like the first one. And I pick random notes, as one note per string. Like I'll pick, for example, this one, this one, this one. And I know that because these notes are part of my scale, no matter which note I play at the same time, they're going to work. I might like the sound, I might not, but it's always going to work. And so that's what you see in those tabs, sometimes little chords. It's okay, as long as they're part of the scale.
Here's one from Chris on live stream, and this one came up when you were first talking about the 2 different cups. And
Yep.
so he's just asking, so you're singing that riff to yourself prior to playing?
Not exactly. I'm singing it as I'm playing it, and it's just like when I'm talking to you now. I'm not thinking before I say it. It's simultaneous. And if I break it down, how do I do that? Well, you do that when you're a baby, when you're learning how that sound, how to produce that sound, how to produce the shh, like that. You're experimenting, and that's what should happen on your guitar. Like I'm hearing ba da ba da ba and forcing yourself to sing something, then reproduce it. The more you do that, the more. I'm not singing perfect pitch, but I know exactly what's coming out. As I'm imagining it in my mind, my fingers are reproducing it, just like the mouth commanding those sounds to produce what I want almost simultaneously. So it's at the same time, but you can't just pick up the guitar for the first time and do that. You've got to sing something first, then reproduce it, and you'll make those connections. You'll see that, oh, if I want to make this that kind of sound, I've got to put more pressure, that kind of thing. So it's a gradual process, but yeah, to answer your question, it's kind of automatic like that.
Okay, here's one from Law Tim. When developing a pattern, are you also developing a pattern of what strings to play?
Yep. So yeah, you think in terms of, there are multiple aspects of the pattern. There's the note placement, like we said, left, right, middle for some scales. And then there's the strings, on which strings am I going to place that. And it can be as complex as you want, as long as you can remember the sequence, and then repeat that on the next string. So I'm also thinking in terms of strings too. There has to be a logic for that. Yep.
Okay, I've got another one from Chris on live stream. Can you share your pedal setup as well, please? Looper first or last?
Yeah. Here in the studio, I'm going into a tuner, and then the tuner is going into the looper. And the looper is going into, we're not using a real amp, we're using an 11 rack, which replaces the amp, and all the other effects, but I'm not sure the chain of effects in the rack. But when you're using a looper, there are 2 ways to do it. You can either put the looper right in front of the amp, and that's fine, but the problem if you do that, if you, like I'm doing today, if I were to record a loop like I did here, that basically recorded what came before, which is just the guitar. The sound of the amp is processing that loop that's going on. So if we were to change patch and put a distortion, that will be distorted too. And that might not be what you want. If I wanted to go from a clean sound like this, and on top of it improvise with the distortion pedal, what I have to do is put the distortion before the loop. Anything after that loop, anything that's coming out of the loop, is going to be affected by the loop. Anything before is not going to be affected. Hope that makes sense. So that's the setup for this. Great. Good questions, everyone. Want to remind you that this live event and all the other live events come with a practice guide. Practice guide is something that are recorded previously, so it's not live. And it's depending on the session, usually it runs between 20 to 30 minutes. And it's relevant to this particular session. So now that you watched this, throughout the week, if you want to practice what we talked about, these sequences, just grab your guitar and go in a comfortable place with no distractions and just hit the play button on the practice guide video. And I'll just guide you through a 30-minute practice session. And so if you don't have the, let's say that you don't have the discipline or the time, most of the time it's the time to plan what you're going to practice, you don't have to anymore. You just play the play button on the practice guide and I'll walk you through it. I'll teach you those licks real time and I'll give you some time to play it on your own. It's kind of an interactive yet pre-recorded thing. So you should try that and also apply all this to your own music. If you're writing music, try to inject some sequences to what you're playing or over backing tracks and vary the backing tracks too. And next week, we're going to talk about chromatic passages, which is adding something to those pentatonic scales to make it sound like something that it's not necessarily. We'll talk about that next week, but it's going to add some cool flavor and colors to your pentatonic scales. And in the meantime, if you find that you have a question, leave it in the forum, because we'll take a look, and if there's something that's that needs to be answered, we'll answer it next week, same time, same place. I think I'm done talking. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great week, and I'll see you next Monday.